Welcome, welcome, welcome. How much do you need to make in order to purchase a home in Cedar Hill, Texas? That is our mission and vision for today. So what does that salary need to look like for Cedar Hill? Give me 2 seconds as I test out our audio, making sure that we are good to go. All right, so that is our goal for today. How much do we need to make in order to purchase a home in Cedar Hill, Texas? What salary does that need to be? We're going to jump right into it, but just so you kind of know where we're going, the roadmap that we're taking, we're going to look at real estate prices in Cedar Hill. We need a starting point. We're going to briefly spend maybe 45 seconds looking at real estate properties that match the price that we're shooting for. And then we're going to get right into the calculation. Now, the calculation that you're going to see is based off of the max price calculator that is furnished to us courtesy of Win the House You Love, which is a YouTube channel by Kyle Seagraves, a really good friend of the channel. And that max price calculator is linked down below along with the information that you're going to see. So check that out down below. It's free for you to use. So just download it, create a duplicate, and it's yours. So with that being said, once we get into the calculation mode, we're going to look at down payment, we're going to look at interest rates, and very importantly, we're going to look at property taxes, how to calculate them correctly. Let me say that again, how to calculate property taxes correctly, because they're a little bit convoluted, especially here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And a simple mistake, and a very honest mistake, in calculating your property taxes can leave you short by about 80%. So we do not want that. We do not want the tax office calling and also the bank calling, because you're not providing enough money to satisfy the loan, and we certainly don't want that. With that being said, let's jump into the real estate prices, because we need to know what we're shooting for. What does that need to look like? All right, so we are in Altos Research, which is a free website for you to use. It's just it provides real-time market data for what's going on in the market. So here, since we're talking about Cedar Hill, Texas, we're looking at $464,000 is the median list price of the homes this week. Now, again, this gives you real-time market information of what's happening right now. This is why we come here to get that information. And as far as the market action index, which basically tells you, is this a buyer's market where there is an excess of inventory, so buyers have the leverage, or is this a seller's market where there's not as much inventory and the sellers have the leverage? Well, look at what happened last month. You see where it used to be, it was over here on the 40 somethings. Now it's getting closer to a buyer's market. And as we always say, not always, as we say here, specifically at this point in time that we're recording this video, the further that you go away from the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which Cedar Hill is towards the outer edge at this point, you're going to see it migrate more towards a buyer's market. Why is that the case? Well, you're going to see it be more of a buyer's market, or at least lean a little bit more that way, because there's more inventory in the form of new construction homes. There's more land. There's more availability for homes to be built. As you get closer into the Metroplex, so the Irvings of the world, the Grand Prairies of the world, the Grapevines of the world, the Carrolltons, the Colony, those cities that are in the central part of the DFW Metroplex, well, there's not that many builders there. You don't have physical land to build on. So there you're at the mercy of the sellers, what the sellers bring to the market in terms of the resale home. So there's no new builders to speak of. That's why you're seeing those types of cities a little bit closer towards the 50s and the 60s from the market action index, meaning it's more of a seller's market. Just a little FYI. Now, the real reason that we're here, the reason that we like to go into this particular field is because this particular website is because it gives us different price points that we can purchase in. It gives us 4 quadrants to consider, and these quadrants coincide with the type of home that you might be looking for. So the quadrants are from the top to bottom. You see the top 25%, the average or the median price in that quadrant, and related to the square footage, so the average square foot of those homes, the number of beds, the number of baths. So it gives you those averages. The second quadrant, so if you're looking for the what is that? So 50 to 75% of the top end of the real estate market in Cedar Hill. In this case, you're looking at about $550,000. and the third quadrant about $400,000. So for our purposes today, we're actually going to go with the third quadrant. It's the most attainable in a lot of people's eyes, or the most desirable in a lot of people's eyes. Makes no sense in doing this breakdown on only the higher echelon or the higher prices, because you're not going to necessarily, a lot of us aren't going to necessarily be purchasing in that price point. And we're also not going to be doing the lowest price available out there, because when you're looking at the lower quadrant here, you're typically looking at homes that might require a little bit of work, a little bit of rehabbing, and not a lot of us are looking to do that. So this is a happy medium. So we're going to shoot for $399. We'll keep it at that. Okay, so we're going to say it's $399,000. So it's basically $400,000. But we're going to say $399 just because. Just so I don't want to say, because I don't want to say $400,000, even though it makes no difference. All right, so with that being said, first mission done. We establish what the real estate price is that we're going to shoot for in Cedar Hill. So mission complete. We have that down. Now, mission 2, let's see what type of real estate, what type of house we can purchase with this type of budget. So in order for us to do that, all we have to do is go to jaimeresendis.exprealty.com, and you're able to do so as well. And we're going to type in Cedar Hill to give us a visual of the type of home that we can expect to purchase at this price range. And really the inventory that's available in Cedar Hill right now, because oftentimes when we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's a little bit challenging to really digest that. How much of a home can I actually purchase? So I'm going to remove myself from the equation for a quick second, and we're going to do a little deep search, or not search. We're just gonna look at some homes. The lowest price home in Cedar Hill today, at the time of this recording, is 200,000 square feet. My goodness, $200,000 with just shy of 1,400 square feet. So this is the lowest priced property in the market right now. And as we scroll down, you're going to see the type of real estate that you can purchase for this price. Now, as we get into very close to $300,000, you get to see essentially the upgrades. Like, look at that house right there, $290,000. That house right there in a lot of other markets is very, very high, as you can imagine. Right, so we're in the $300,000. For $300,000, if you were to put this same property over in Carrollton for this type of property that you're looking at right now, which is Carrollton, for those of you that are new to the area, in Carrollton, this type of property, you're looking in the 400,000s or so, right? So we're going to continue going. Remember, our price to meet is $399,000, so just shy of $400,000. So you see the type of real estate that you can afford out here in Cedar Hill for the prices that we're scrolling through. Now you're starting to see a lot more new constructions here. So there's a lot of builders out here that are building. You have D.R. Horton, you have other builders out here that are putting product on the ground for less than $400,000, which is the average that we're shooting for, right? And we're going to do just one, maybe two more, just so you kind of see a lot of new construction out here. So this goes back and it really makes sense of what we were talking about here, why it's gravitating more towards a buyer's market, because there's more inventory. There's a lot more new construction out here than you're going to find in a lot of other areas in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I really like that brick. Something about that type of brick that just absolutely is incredible. All right. And then one more and we'll call it good. New construction every which way. So you're hearing the $500,000. Ooh, that's a nice house right there. I like that house. Nice entry. Ooh, I'm a sucker for that type of driveway. What is that? The drive around driveway? I don't necessarily know what it's called, but I really like that. Cool. Alrighty, so that's enough. That's enough house porn for today. We are going to get into some calculation. So $399,000, that is the price that we're shooting for. And a huge favor, if you could just do me one huge favor, hit that like button. It's gonna help distribute this video to more and more people, so more and more people are informed of how to calculate a mortgage payment, how much home they can afford, and ultimately be making better decisions when it comes to their real estate journey, when it comes to their real estate transaction. All right, so let's dig into this. We're gonna match the market what the market is doing with what our pocketbook is doing. So we're going to match what is the current market condition, and then we're going to marry it with our current bank statements, basically. So how much we're making, our debt, and everything in between. So essentially we're matching the market to us. We're combining it together and producing max price calculator babies. That's what's happening. All right, so down payment. Whenever you're purchasing a home, you can purchase it outright. You can purchase it for cash. Now, a lot of us do not have that type of disposable income or that type of income lying around. So we're going to be getting a loan from a bank, from a lending institution to be more specific. Now, when we do that, there are certain requirements. One of those requirements, in most cases, is going to be a down payment. Now, the most common loans out there that loans out there that are made by purchasers, by buyers, are going to be conventional loans and FHA loans. Now, there's differences, there's nuances to both, so we're not going to cover every nuance, but we are going to cover some major ones. The minimum down payment that you need to purchase to get into a conventional loan is 3%. So if you're going to get a conventional loan, the minimum that you're going to need is 3% down. Now, generally with the conventional loan, you're going to need a higher credit score in order to be approved, and you're going to normally have more options with a conventional loan. On an FHA loan, which is the other type of loan that is often used in purchases like this, the minimum down payment is 3.5%. Now, with FHA loans, you're generally looking at higher fees. You're generally looking at more flexibility when it comes to credit scores. So your credit can be a little bit less than ideal, and you're going to be able to qualify for an FHA loan and get a decent rate, if you will. We're speaking in generalities right now. I'm going to get more and more specific as we get going. But for our purposes today, we're going to say we're going to put 5% down. Why are we doing 5%? Because a lot of our clients end up going with 5% down. A lot of our clients don't do 20% down, which is one of the myths that has come up, thinking that you need 20% down to purchase a home. That's something that I thought for years and years and years until I got into the industry. I didn't even know that it was not an option. So shame on me. But what the 20% myth comes from, why a lot of people think that you need 20% down to purchase a home, is because that 20% becomes a threshold for certain types of loans. So as an example, we just talked about conventional, we just talked about FHA. If you don't put at least 20% down, meaning more than 20% down in the purchase of the home, then you are paying what's called mortgage insurance. So this mortgage insurance gets applied monthly in the form of an additional percentage, not an entire percentage point, but additional fee, additional amount, additional cost in the form of mortgage insurance. So every single month you're paying more per month on your entire mortgage because the bank doesn't deem that you have enough equity stake in the ownership of that home. And also they want to mitigate their losses in the event that you default. They're putting out another insurance on you that if you do, they at least have recouped a good amount of their capital from you, because it's an additional expense that you're paying directly to them, right? So that's where the 20% comes from. If you do anything less than 20% down, you're paying mortgage insurance. Now, one key distinction between conventional and FHA before we move on, I promise this gets a little bit quicker, but one key distinction is that if you get a conventional loan and you don't put 20% down, eventually you will have over 20% owner equity in that home, meaning that you will own over 20% of your property as you make payments monthly and then eventually yearly. Once you get past that 20%, the mortgage insurance that you're being charged by the bank goes away. Under an FHA loan, which is that different type of loan that's most commonly used, if you don't put 20% down and you're making payments monthly and yearly and you continue going, your mortgage insurance never goes away. So that's a big distinction. With conventional, eventually, once you get 20% equity in your home, meaning as you're making payments, the mortgage insurance goes away. Under an FHA loan, it does not go away. The only way that it goes away is that if once you pay off the entire loan, that's when the mortgage insurance goes away. And we'll talk about it more here. You're going to see the actual number of what that translates into dollars and cents here shortly. Interest rate. Whenever you borrow from a lending institution, you are borrowing what's called the principal, meaning the loan. That's how much you're actually borrowing. The principal is how much you're borrowing. The bank is going to charge you interest on that. Essentially, that's how they make their money. That is the cost of your principal. That's how much you're paying to get that loan every single month. So in order to have the most, let me rephrase that, a reasonable amount, a reasonable estimate of what your mortgage interest rate is going to be, all you have to do is go to Google and type in mortgage interest rates today, and this is going to give you a good, realistic amount that you can count on right now. So we're going to put $400,000, and we're going to say that we're doing 5% down, and that our credit score is average. We're not saying that it's stellar, but we're also not saying that it's in the lower echelon, if you will. So we're saying that our credit score is about 7.346. So 7.346 is what, I'm sorry, we're saying that our credit score is about 720, but the 30-year fixed, which is what most of the loans that we get into happen to be a fixed rate loan, is 7.346. So that is the interest rate at the moment, roughly. And it's close to this. Now, we did our last live stream on Sunday, so you saw a slight fluctuation here. Now, of course, this is an average. This is an estimate. This is close to what you can expect. If your credit score is better, then you're going to get a better rate. If your credit score is less than this, you're probably going to get a worse rate. Just makes sense. If your loan is higher, you're going to get a different rate. So there's a lot of things. This is just a reasonable estimate. It's not reasonable for me to make this calculation and give you a, hey, what if you could get a 2% interest rate like you could 2 years ago? That's not realistic. So we can't make that. We can't make that calculation in all fairness. How long is your mortgage? Most mortgages are 30 years, so we're going to let that be. Property tax rates. This is really where I want you to tune in. This is really where I want you to really pay attention, because this is what's commonly misunderstood. And if we get this property tax rate wrong, we're under budgeting by a lot. We're under budgeting by 4 times the amount, or our property tax rates become 4 times the actual amount if we don't budget correctly. So one thing to note is property taxes are paid on the property that you own for as long as you own it. Regardless if you have a mortgage or if you don't have a mortgage, you're paying property taxes. As long as you're the owner, property taxes are happening. 2, Texas has, in the grand scheme of things, some of the higher property tax rates in the country. And they're actually ranked 6th in the highest property tax rates, number 1 being New Jersey. So Texas has significant amount of property taxes that are due. Now, of course, the trade-off is that there's no state income tax, but either way, just know that Texas has some of the higher property tax rates in the country. Now, the third thing to understand is that property tax rates change throughout the DFW Metroplex. There's not a single city that has the exact same property tax rate as the neighboring city. That is just not a thing. However, it's very simple to calculate, and you're going to see how to do that today. So there's 5 numbers that we need to keep in mind. Mostly, there's 5 numbers that you need to keep in mind that is going to be added together to become what we call the property tax rate. Your city tax rate, your county tax rate, your ISD tax rate, and these three numbers that we just talked about, city, county, ISD, these numbers, I'm going to show you where to go to find them. These numbers get added together, and any city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is going to have these 3 numbers. So you're going to need to have these 3 numbers ready to add up so you can make a reasonable estimate on what your salary needs to be in order to purchase and what your mortgage is going to ultimately be. Now, there's 2 additional numbers that come into play in a lot of the cities. Now, not all of the cities, but in a lot of the cities. I know this gets a little bit convoluted, but once you see it on paper, it's going to make sense. The higher education tax, and so think of it like community colleges, and the hospital network. So if you're in Dallas County as an example, then you're talking about Parkland as an example. So that's the hospital network. So those are the 5 numbers that can potentially come into play. Now there's special water districts and things of that nature. Those are not as common as the 5 that we just talked about, and those are typically very, very minimal in the grand scheme of things. So as long as we get these 5, I feel very confident with our breakdown. So let's go and find the property tax rate for Cedar Hill. And we're going to go back to Google and we're going to put Cedar Hill property tax rate. Now, here's where we get into trouble. Remember when I mentioned, hey, if we just get this number wrong, we're going to be undershooting it by a lot. This is what I'm talking about. If we were to come here, oh, you can't even see me, can you? Whoops. So if you were to just see what you're seeing right now, and you were saying, okay, well, it's 0.697%. Oh, that's not that bad. I thought property taxes in Texas were huge. Then you would be grossly misunderstood. Like you would be so wrong. And I don't want that for you. That's why we're here. This number is just one of those 5 numbers that we just talked about. This is just the city number. We still need the county. We still need the ISD, and we might have the higher education and the hospital network to contend with. This is just one of the numbers. And in fact, the highest number, I don't want you to think that I'm flipping you off, but the highest number is not the county, it's not the city, it's actually the ISD. And that's not factored into this tax rate right now. This is just factoring in the city rate, right? So let's go and find it. Let's get into their, oh, this 2019. I can already tell that Cedar Hill is not throwing down correctly. Yeah. All right, so this is why it's so valuable that we do this together. I could very easily do this research off screen. It would take me a couple minutes, but that would be fine. I want to do this work with you right in front of you because every single city is different. Every single city, almost, it's like they're trying to hide it because there's very few cities out there that will actually show you plain as day. This is a city, this is the county, this is the ISD, this is the higher education, this is the hospital network rate. Very few cities do that. And unfortunately, right now, Cedar Hill is giving me a fail vibe. It smells like failure in terms of, not the city, I like the city, in terms of giving us the rates that we need. So they're going to make it a little bit more challenging. All right, here we go. They might redeem themselves. Here we go. There's a little bit more, there's a few more numbers than we need, but this is going to be more than enough for us to do the calculation as long as we know the 5 numbers that we're looking for. We're not going to use all of these, just to be clear. We're not going to use all of these, so let's go one by one. City of Cedar Hill, we need that number. So this number, we're going to be adding it. Is that right? I think they have it wrong. Do they have it wrong? I think this is actually should be 0.69. I think they're off by 0. Yeah, I think they're off by 0. All right, we're gonna do the calculation the way that we know how, but I might need to call them. But we're gonna do the right calculation either way. But we're gonna take the city ISD. I'm sorry, the city that just threw me off completely. That is not right. Yeah, that is not right at all. So you see, well, based off of 100,000, I guess. Okay, no, it's based off of 100. Yeah, this is wrong. This is wrong. It's supposed to be 0.69. Let me know in the chat. Am I reading this wrong? I know that I'm not. I know that I'm not, because when you add these numbers together, you're gonna roughly look at 1.8% to about 3% in property tax rates in any city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So Cedar Hill is gonna fall somewhere in between there. So we'll look at this. All right, so Cedar Hill, we're gonna do the right calculation. Again, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section. I could be completely misreading the whole thing because it's a Wednesday evening. City of Cedar Hill, we're gonna add this number. What else do we need? We need the county. So we're gonna add Dallas County right here. So we're gonna add this number. What else do we need to add? We need to add the ISD. So if you go to Midlothian ISD, so if you happen to be in the city where you can actually go to Midlothian ISD, so you're that far out, what is that? Southwest, you might be hitting a Midlothian ISD, or most of you are gonna be in Cedar Hill. So it's not gonna matter too much. So these 3 numbers for sure we're gonna need. Now remember what I talked about earlier. We talked about higher education, and we talked about hospital network. So we have the Dallas County colleges and this right here, Parkland Hospital County. Now this is one of those rare taxes that personally I don't even see that much. So I feel comfortable not even adding this, especially knowing the big mistake that they've made there. But I for sure feel comfortable adding this because I know that this is a thing, and I also know that the higher education one is also a real thing. So I'm going to add this, 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 and I'm going to add this. So here's what we got to do. Can I believe they've made that? I could be misreading it, so let me know in the chat. So what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to add these percentages together to get us the number that we need. I no longer do public math because that gets embarrassing quickly. All right, so check your math, check my math. So the math that I did is I moved this over because I know that this is not correct. This zero does not need to be there. So our math is 2.7194. So our tax rate, look at the difference here. I don't know what, let me check. What was our last live stream, gang? Our last live stream was Bimbrook, and Bimbrook's tax rate was 2.15. So notice the difference. I'm going to double check my math real quick just to make sure, because I don't want to be wrong on this for y'all. We're going to say 2.72%. This is reflected in percentage. So I'm going to do this math again real quick. But did you see the difference of what one city, well, Pembroke and Cedar Hill are nowhere close to each other. However, that really solidifies the point and drives home the point that I'm trying to make of, yeah, I mistyped that. That I was trying to make where every city has a different tax rate. And you want to do this breakdown for all of the cities. I know it's a pain, but you know, there's a certain amount of work that you have to do anyway to purchase a home. Yes, 2.712. So, sorry, 2.72. That's our property tax rate in Cedar Hill. All right, so property tax rate. I know I took 20 minutes there, but even as what you saw live on stream right now, that even the city itself is prone to errors. Let's continue. Insurance rate. The insurance rate that we go with is an estimate. It's a ballpark. So here this is 0.75% times the value of the home, which we divide by 12, which gives us a monthly premium. Now, this is an estimate. As home insurance continues to rise and the cost continues to rise, we're going to need to multiply by 0.8%. Right, because it just continues to rise. So right now we're still at a reasonable estimate, but as home insurance continues to rise, then we can start adjusting accordingly. Mortgage insurance. So remember what we talked about. If we don't put 20% down in the purchase of our home, we're paying what's called mortgage insurance. So here we're saying that it's a conventional loan and we have decent credit, good credit, nothing to write home about. Yearly HOA fees. Since so many homes are being built right now in Cedar Hill, I'm going to go ahead and factor in a $450 HOA fee. That's a reasonable fee, especially because there's so many new construction homes being built in the area. I want to account for that. Now, this in and of itself is not going to go into the calculation of the mortgage payment. We're going to show it just so you budget, but it's not going to factor into the monthly mortgage payment. That's not something that you pay with your mortgage. It's something that you pay at the beginning of the year in the form of an invoice. Now we get into our personal situation. Up here, it was more about market conditions. We really can't control the interest rate outside of our credit. But for the most part, there's a certain range we really can't control. Property taxes, same thing. That's not something that we can control, and that's something that Cedar Hill for sure can't control. So we'll get out of that. I'll stop picking on them. Let me X out of these. All right, so now we're going to match our personal finances to what the market is doing right now. So here's where you put how much you earn. Now remember, this is linked down below, so go down to the description, and once you get access to this, just go to file, make a copy, and save it to your drive. Don't try to edit this one because this one's mine. So we're going to say we make $90,000 a year. That is our salary. Now we also need to factor in some debts. Our debts are things like child support, student loans, credit cards, car loans. That's what debt is. We're not factoring in expenses like groceries, utilities, phone bills. That's already factored into the equation that goes into the back end, which is what's called the debt to income ratio. So first we need to really establish what the debt is, and based off of the ratio that has already been predetermined, the expenses have already been factored into that ratio. I know I said that a little bit wonky, but let's keep it clear. We just need to know how much we make per year. Then we also need to know our monthly mortgage payments that we're making on our debt. So all you have to do is just name your debt here. You can put like student loans, and you can put the minimum monthly payment that's required on the student loans, and you keep it moving. Just put the minimum monthly payment. Don't put anything beyond that. That's all you have to do. Now, if you have a co-borrower, if someone else is borrowing and buying the house with you, go ahead and put their income here, name the debt, and then and when I say name the debt, I don't get to see this. This is going to be on yours. This is just for clarity so you can remember, oh, did I factor in the student loans? Did I factor in the car payment? This is just clarity for you. This is something you're going to be able to adjust 24/7. This is yours. I don't get access to this. Just for clarity, it's much easier for you. For our calculation today, though, we're not going to put any debt, just to keep it as clean as possible. We just say that we're making $90,000. We're debt free. Blessed be God. Like, that's awesome. Great. Now we need to know, based off of this market conditions, how much home we can actually afford. What's the max price that we can offer on a home? And based off of the income that we just saw and the breakdown that we just saw, the max price that we can put out there into the world, of the highest property that we could purchase, is $344,000, which is short of our goal of $399,000. Now here, this gives you a range based off of, think of it like your risk profile. We're factoring a little bit of your risk tolerance, your risk profile. These safe, conservative, moderate, aggressive, risky, those are just labels that we put on. This is not something that this is subjective. What might be moderate for you might be super risky for me. What might be conservative for you might be super risky for me, or what I think you get the point. But basically, if you had everything the same and you wanted to buy a house for $268,000, that's what we would call a moderate loan or a moderate risk profile. Because you could borrow more. You could borrow up to $80,000 more, but you're choosing to do borrow as much as you feel comfortable with. You know your finances, you know your risk tolerance. Our job is to show you how the math works. So here, if you were to buy a house for $268,000, it would be a $2,700 a month payment, and you're looking at 47% of your net income going to your housing expense. If you think that's too high, okay, well, buy a less expensive home. If you think that's kind of on the low end, or you feel that you can take on more debt if you so choose, then buy a more expensive home. This is your decision to make. But here's what we have to do in order for us to make good on how much you need to earn in order to purchase a home in Cedar Hill. We got to go back to the equation and go back to our boss and say, hey boss, I'm trying to buy a home in Cedar Hill. Can you hook me up with a raise? And the boss is going to say, absolutely. How much do you need? And you're going to say, well, let's just try $105,000. So go ahead and give me a $15,000 raise to see if I can meet the minimum or meet my risk tolerance. And turns out that you're very close, but we're going to have to go back real quick. Let's add 110, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay. When we do this calculation, this goes across all other 80 cities that we're doing with this particular series of affordability, the series of how much you need to earn in order to purchase a home in a city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Today it happens to be Cedar Hill. We want the average that we're shooting for, this $399 price. We're trying to get this between the moderate and the aggressive loan. We're not trying to get super risky. That's not really where we want you. And I personally actually don't want you on the aggressive side as well. I just want you somewhere in between moderate and aggressive. That seems to be a good happy medium where a lot of our clients end up being, where they're comfortable and are not feeling so stressed out because they might not be able to make the mortgage payment the next month, right? We don't want that for you. So that's why we give you a reasonable range. So $399 fits within our moderate and aggressive model. So we're going to call this exercise good, that you're going to need about $110,000 given market conditions and your personal financial conditions to purchase a home in the city of Cedar Hill. Mission accomplished. That's mission accomplished number 3. Now, the third mission that we're going to go on is breaking down what that payment actually looks like. So we're going to go here, and at this point, forget what you're about to see in the next 5 seconds as I guess and test this. I need to get this number that you see at the very top. I need this number to be as close as what do you call it? 399, almost $400,000. So $399,000. I'm just manipulating that number so I can get to it. The reason being is because I want to show you what the math looks like. I want to show you. We're going to pretend this is $399. That's close enough for what we need to do. I want to show you what the breakdown looks like. In terms of down payment, you're looking at about $20,000 in down payment for when you're doing 5% down. In terms of closing costs, you're looking at $10,000. So here you're looking at, what's that? $30,000 cash to close, meaning you need to have this in the bank to either wire it in or you have a mortgage cashier's check at the title company in order for you to close on this property of $399,000 in Cedar Hill based off of the market conditions that we just talked about. Now, what does that mean for you? That means that you have almost a $4,000 a month monthly mortgage payment. Now, of that amount, about $2,600 goes to principal, which is the amount that you borrowed, and the interest, which is how much you're paying on that loan. So you add those together, that is the principal and interest. Property taxes. So this is why it's so important. Remember when we typed in property tax rate in Cedar Hill? Well, we saw a 0.68, I think, or 6.7%. That was radically wrong. And radically wrong where the actual property tax rate ended up being 2.7, right? 2.712 or 9? 2.72. Right? So we would have missed 2 percentage points from that. And that would have been disastrous for our budgeting model. We would only be factoring in, what would that be? We would say that our property taxes would be $200, which is radically under what it actually is. That's why we need to know where to go to get these numbers. And even now, I'm gonna call Cedar Hill tomorrow just to make sure if and I'll comment down below to see if what the resolution was, because I just cannot believe that oversight. Either I'm just not thinking right because it's the evening of Wednesday and my mind isn't here or something, or they just moved the extra decimal. So we're gonna find that out. So get some resolution down in the comment section once I give them a call tomorrow, or when you're watching this video, you'll most likely have the answer. Homeowner's insurance. Homeowner's insurance is an estimate of the premium that you're going to have. Of course, homeowner's insurance can go up or down. It's going to depend on where the property is. It's going to depend on claims that have been made on the property before. It's going to depend on if you've made claims on properties before. It's going to depend on limits as well. It's going to depend on so many different things, but this is a reasonable a premium that you're going to pay in homeowner's insurance. Mortgage insurance, this goes back to us not having 20% down in the purchase of this property. Now, if you don't have 20% down, I don't fault you. That's challenging as heck. But just so you know, that mortgage insurance is something that you would be paying on that loan until, if you have a conventional loan, it eventually goes away, or if you have an FHA loan, it doesn't go away ever. But if you're looking at the difference between getting into a home or not getting into a home, being $188 might not be a bad play. Homeowners Association, this is not part of your loan. I know we factor it in here, but we do it for budgetary purposes, so you can just see that this is going to be something you're going to be incurring, but this is not part of your monthly mortgage payment. This gets paid at the beginning of the year. You're going to get invoiced by the HOA directly, and you're going to be expected to pay that in a timely fashion. But again, we're going to pretend this $399,000. our monthly mortgage payment is going to be roughly $4K. Now, what I want to show you, and then we'll hop out of here, is when you're comparing home offers, when you're in the heat of battle of offering above asking or below asking, you're going to need to know how to do this quick calculation. Now, before it was just you trying to get your calculator out and figuring this out, but here we've done the work for you. Always have this as a reference guide, your max price calculator, which is linked down below. Just duplicate it. It's yours. It's yours forever. Have this filled out when you're ready to dance. Have this filled out when you're in the heat of battle, because it gives you a very quick breakdown. So as an example, if you're considering making a lower offer price on the home that you're looking for, well, this automatically does the numbers for you. So this is what you would have in down, this would be the closing cost, and this would be how much less you're paying per month, right? Same thing here. If you're looking at doing 5% more, then it would be almost $200 more, right? So it's just a very quick and dirty way to get this done. And there's a lot of other calculations here that are done for you with just you taking a couple of minutes to input the information that we just went over. And you have access to this. Again, it is linked down below, so make sure that you take advantage of it. Folks, if this was of any value to you, go ahead and drop a like, and also comment down below. Let's comment Cedar Hill. Let's comment Cedar Hill. Because that's going to remind me to call Cedar Hill tomorrow and see what's going on with this property tax rate, because it is important. It does impact you. There's a huge difference between 0.06 and 0.6%, 10 times as much of a difference. But either way, if we can help you in the purchase or sale of your home in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, in the state of Texas, or in the entire country, because we're licensed everywhere in terms of our real estate agent network, let us know. Our contact information is down below. Feel free to book an appointment with us. We would be very honored to have a conversation with you. But outside of that, I hope you have a great day. I'll see you on our next live stream, which is going to happen on Wednesday. Talk to you soon.